Good afternoon, transformative educators. I'm Mel Austen, and welcome to your daily dose of 6 to 8 minutes. This week we'll be addressing the impact of the Australian Government's Learning or Earning program. This program looks specifically at vocational and higher education opportunities for young Australian students. Beginning in 2005, this program states it is compulsory for students under the age of 17 to be in school or the equivalent until completion of Year 10. After students have completed Year 10, they must either undertake full-time training or employment until the age of 17. It has recently come to our attention that this program may have a marginalising impact upon students as it creates opposition between vocational students and those seeking higher education, which can also be related to underlying issues concerning class in Australian society. Natalie Mixon, 2007, supports this with the belief that the maintenance of social class, or the socially constructed status quo, is perpetuated by institutions of education. While the Australian Government's 2005 Learning or Earning program encourages students to complete school, promoting training and career opportunities, there is evidence to suggest that this program can have a negative impact on students. There is concern that the students that have chosen the learning option as a career path are viewed as having made a more valuable choice than students who have chosen vocational options. Different choices made by students in terms of their career should be celebrated and valued by our education system. Diversity in the choices made by students should be encouraged rather than students feeling like they need to choose an option that is expected of them. Natalie Mixon also believes that it is important that we improve our education system in order to provide students with equal educational opportunities, empowering students from diverse backgrounds to transcend structural inequalities. Overall, education programs for senior students should be focused on fostering the development of a positive educational identity, which in turn would have an impact upon the way wider Australia views education as a part of our national identity. We now cross live to Hannah Attenborough, who is currently on scene at a local high school interviewing a student about their experiences.
Are you even a teacher?
No, I'm Hannah Attenborough.
Oh, cut.
Thanks, Mel, and good afternoon, everyone. I am here at a local high school with senior student Ashley. We have asked Ashley here today to share her opinions on the matter. Now, Ashley, what choices have you made in relation to careers and study?
Well, I decided to do a combination of a TAFE course in hairdressing and OP subjects, so it was a bit different to everyone else.
How did the school influence your decision?
Well, I had to have a meeting with the deputy principal to talk about my senior options, and I talked to my family and friends a lot about it. Often people were surprised I didn't want to go to uni, because most of my friends were.
Do you feel supported by your friends, family and the school?
Well, it was a bit difficult because I felt like everyone wanted me to do either one or the other. It's a bit hard to explain why I wanted to do OP subjects, even though I didn't want to go to uni.
How do you feel now about your studies?
Well, it's all going to plan. I'm doing my TAFE course and my OP subjects. But sometimes it's a bit hard to balance these. Like, I feel like I'm choosing between two different identities or two different paths.
Do you feel that the school treats vocational students and OP students differently?
I feel like the school might have thought my OP subjects were a bit more important to me sometimes. I feel like they expected a bit more from the OP students. It was a bit like the vocational students, unintentionally got pushed aside a little bit.
Thank you. Well, so there you have it firsthand, the impact upon young Australians and the opposition between vocational education and OP students, and how this relates to difference, dominance and diversity in the schools. Back to you, Mel.
It is vital to take these views into account when considering the effect of the Australian Government's Learning or Earning program. As educational theorist Paulo Freire, 2004, has stated, one cannot expect positive results from an educational or political action program which fails to respect the particular views held by people. Further discussion of this issue, taking into account the opinions of the students themselves, seems to be the way forward in developing a positive educational identity for all students and respect for difference and diversity in Australian schools.
Well, that was a perspective on the Learning or Earning program I certainly hadn't considered before. I hadn't thought about the way difference and diversity in schools plays out in the choices students make regarding their senior schooling.
Hey guys, what are you guys talking about?
Tammy and I were just discussing the impact of the government's Learning or Earning program on students and how it relates to difference and diversity in the schooling environment. How the schooling system might value choices made by vocational and university-bound students differently, creating an opposition between them.
What sort of opposition?
A binary opposition. You know, I think this issue has great potential to be a learning experience for our Year 10 students. We could think of some learning activities to help students engage with an understanding of difference, and this could really help to reduce the marginalisation that some students may be feeling about their choices for senior schooling.
Sounds like a good idea. We should emphasise to students that all pathways are valid and legitimate, and show them that school can be a place that celebrates and supports a diversity of options for them.
Well, it's important to consider the impact that class structures can have on students' choices. After all, some students might feel pressured to choose an option because it aligns with the perceived level of cultural capital. Natalie Mixon explained this well, that the social class of a student can determine the academic achievement and the level of education they attain, which means they reproduce the same level of cultural capital and social class in their later life.
Well, one way of interrupting this would be to organise excursions to nearby university and TAFE campuses for all students, and maybe have a representative from both of these to come and speak to the students before they make their choices for years 11 and 12. That way, the students could experience both environments as valuable and inclusive of them.
You know, it's interesting that the idea of working class has always been celebrated as an aspect of Australian identity. However, this seems to be only celebrated when convenient. It begs the question, who does and does not belong in an educational space?
Maybe to show diversity in what defines an educational space, we could bring together people who are beginning Voc Ed or pre-OP subjects to experience what the other person does for a day. This activity could reduce discrimination between students by allowing them to experience what different learning programs look like and what it's like to learn in different ways. This would give the students an appreciation and respect for the different options pursued by their classmates, showing that we value the diverse skills and options available to people. As Bourdieu and Passeron said, pedagogic action must always transmit not only a content, but also an affirmation of the value of that content.
Yes, because we want to communicate to our students that whatever path they choose to follow, it has value and contribution to society. Speaking about a diversity of skills, another activity could involve students working in groups on problem-solving challenges. This would allow students to showcase their strengths in different areas.
I know a couple of games that might be good activities to achieve this. One involves dividing the students into groups, giving each group an egg and a limited supply of straws and sticky tape, and through working together to a time limit, they have to try and develop a way to protect their egg from a 2-minute drop. This will encourage students to work together, appreciate one another and skills, and build relationships.
Exactly. This could help us to further resist the hidden curriculum relating to social class. Daniel Rosides linked this with being part of the way schools reproduce the class system, by being biased towards the skills and values displayed by the upper class and overlooking or discriminating against the skills and values of the lower class. It could also help us to counteract the privileging of an academic discourse as the only way to learn and solve problems.
We could also use this activity as a starting point for a discussion about the different roles people play in society. We could highlight the fact that without tradespeople, things taken for granted such as building a house would not be completed. Just as without people who go on to study at university, society would lack valuable people who understand the dynamics of engineering and so on. By highlighting the importance of everyone's role within the community, we could promote self-value and the value of others, and that in turn could reduce marginalisation and discrimination.
To minimise the dominance of one particular idea about learning and education, as well as what defines success in terms of career choices, why don't we encourage the kids to talk together in groups and share their dreams and goals openly, without considering the social expectations that people might hold for them, or even those they hold for themselves?
Well, there is plenty of theory to support the idea that considering multiple points of view can help students acknowledge diversity as well as better understand their own identity. Mary Lewis even suggests the strength of future Australia will come with an understanding of the power of diversity.
This reminds me of some of Paulo Freire's other work about the idea of problem-solving education, where he discusses the idea that to interrupt any sort of oppressive order, it's vital to give the oppressed an opportunity to ask why and inquire about things, to acknowledge themselves in the process of becoming and ask questions about their perception of reality. Speaking of the oppressed might seem a little bit extreme, but anyone who is denied or misses the opportunity to explore what they choose to pursue for a career has definitely missed out on a great freedom that no one should be discriminated from experiencing.
I think that by participating in a structured discussion like this, students could come to feel as though their dreams and goals are valid, and they don't need to align with some sort of idea of a collective identity of the school, or even their own family to be appropriate.
To understand what type of education you'd like to pursue, you must consider and develop a sense of self in order to comprehend your strengths and weaknesses and find a niche in which you belong.
Overall, I think working with these activities based around the Learning or Earning program could reduce students' value attribution to different life choices. Students who pursue vocational education would no longer feel trapped into making statements like, "School just doesn't work for me, I can't wait till I leave," but instead feel as though the education system is working for them. They should no longer feel that choosing earning over learning excludes them from developing a legitimate career and pathway, that their choice is more than just a cop-out.
Students pursuing university after school may have the pressures on them to achieve and have a clear direction reduced, as they may perceive that all choices will be valuable to society.
Well, I think we have plenty of ideas to be transformative educators for our students. Let's disrupt this binary opposition.
Woo! Yeah.